So half the meeting has been taken care of?
I just asked one question, we got it all taken care of.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order of the Natrona County Parks Advisory Board on this day, Thursday, July 13th. If we could have a roll call.
Rob Hill, present.
Jim Miller, present.
Doug Irvin, present.
Cordell Wistison, present.
Crystal Bratvold, present.
Michael Brown, present.
Okay, then let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is Dave with us tonight, or?
Commissioner North is not available. He called me this morning. He's got some hay he is dealing with, so I think he's rebaling or something. Anyways, he had to get that taken care of, so.
Okay. Do we have a motion for the approval of the prior meeting's minutes?
Move we accept the prior minutes of the meeting in June.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the meetings from June 8th are approved as presented and recorded on YouTube. And then we're on to reports from our Parks Director, Michael.
Okay, so on the mountain, the Casper Mountain Trail Center design and contract are being worked on. We had a work session with the county commissioners had a work session with Amundsen Associates, the architect, and Caspar Building Systems, the low bidder. And we've been doing some value engineering to try and get the overall cost down. What was presented to the commission was a list of deleted items that we came up with in a prior meeting and had price points on those. They were discussed, a few of them were added back in. For example, there's a vestibule on the front that was gonna be taken out, but that was added back in because of the way the doors are oriented to the prevailing winds. Without that vestibule, it's just gonna blow right in the building, which will offset the energy efficiency of the building as well as be an issue with just cold weather. So that was added back in. There was a site item that proposed that county parks would remove all of the trees for the construction site and provide the gravel for the final grading of the parking lot. It was determined the cost savings wasn't worth taking that out. I like the idea that it's left in and we have one contractor that handles all the subcontractors instead of the county going and getting a contract for tree removal and contract for hauling gravel and whatnot. The fireplace, that stayed out, as well as the gas line, propane gas line to it, that stayed out. I think the air conditioning was an item that was gonna be removed, but it was decided to keep the air conditioning unit in since we don't have operating windows. And so the only fresh air would be through the mechanical system, bringing it in. You know, it still gets warm up there. So we're still envisioning this as a year-round multi-use facility. So that was a good thing to be left in. I'm trying to think what else was brought back into it. There were some minor changes on, what type of pipe to use for the plumbing. The concrete work around the building, that's been changed. So it was deleted. We had quite a bit of concrete around the building. That's been changed to ADA sidewalks. And I've seen a conceptual plan of it. I think it'll work. And where the concrete's not gonna be anymore, we determined that we'll just put it back to native grass. We talked about graveling it, and we could do that at a later date if we determined that it's too soft and people are getting into the mud too much, but the native grass might work better too. So we'll see how that operates and see if we need to bring in gravel afterwards. So if this all goes to plan, it'll be presented August 1st in front of the commission. Hopefully we'll get a contract signed with the general contractor soon after that. And then they will pre-order the engineered building in the next few months so that it won't be on-site, it'll be in their yard, but it'll be here in Casper, ready to go. So in the spring, when the thaw comes, they can get started right away. So the goal is to be complete with the project late December of '24, possibly early January '25. So not what everybody's hoping for, but I think it's a good balance of things. The school district is contributing $750,000 towards the project. Their only caveat really is they want the full parking lot. And so that'll be part of the project, and it'll be the MOU's renewable up to 10 terms. So as long as nothing changes, it'll be renewed each year for 10 years.
So, Michael, besides the fireplace and the concrete work, what were the other major deletions arrived at for cost savings from the last?
Well,
Lisa?
it was the site work, having the county do the site work separately.
You said the propane too also.
Yeah, we'll still have propane, the air conditioning, which we added back in, so I don't actually have the final numbers
Okay.
of where we're gonna fall. But with all the deletions, I think the number was in the 2.7 to 2.8 range versus the original bid of being 3.2. I'm trying to think. A couple other things that changed, now that you spiked my memory. The exterior paneling may be not as custom. And then the concrete wall footer around the building was gonna be at 3 feet. Now it's just gonna be like 6 inches above grade. So that was a cost savings. And then if you recall how the front of the building, the roof projected out on that one corner and had those columns that came down,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a standard 3-foot eave all the way around the building. So those columns will go away. And same on the vestibule, the columns extending that roof out, it'll be back to 3 feet there, so. But we'll still have the snow harvesting capability coming off the roof.
Yeah, it's mostly aesthetics and design. It's not really impacting the
Yeah,
winterability of the building.
I saw a rough drawing, it didn't look great, but when you add the vestibule back in, it looks a lot better, so.
Okay.
Otherwise, it looked like a pillbox,
Yeah.
so.
Now, is this going to have a kitchen in it?
It's gonna have a catering kitchen, so if somebody has a family reunion or an event, they can utilize that. And we're gonna figure that out. I don't believe this contract won't provide any appliances in there at this time. I mean, the basic sinks will be there, but not the fridge or stove or any of that type of stuff at this time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
will the Wi-Fi and communications, are those still something that we're going to be able to do for groups and presentations and stuff?
So we do have a wall for presentations with connections. I'm not sure if IT's putting Wi-Fi in there or not. If we do, it will not be for the general public because that's not why you're up there. But they did talk about a cell booster because it's a metal building. Sometimes cell service is hard inside, so they talked about a cell booster on the building that would improve cell service in the area. So they have that.
Just a quick follow-up, please. So if we have groups that want to rent it, say in the summer or something, for meetings or something, will they be able to to do that? with
Yeah.
Where we're set up? Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably set it up, but most likely it might be set up in the reservation system. Otherwise, you'll have to call the office and schedule that time. But yeah, it'll be able for in-service, for school district. you know.
But from a communications Wi-Fi standpoint, will they be able to?
I
have-
believe so.
Okay,
I believe so. I'd have to look at the drawings. I know we have it set up with a wall for, if you bring in a projector, we have a wall you can do that on, and we have outlets and whatnot for that, so.
But we do have internet service there for the webcam and weather.
Yes, we
Service, right?
do. And we'll also have a office, county parks office in there that'll have a computer and whatnot, so we'll have
Yeah.
that service. IT has a data closet, and that's one thing that was not put back in. There was a mini split unit to keep that cool. We had discussions, we removed that, and it'll be an exhaust fan that, as long as it draws air through there, and with having the central air, the ambient temperature inside won't be exorbitant, so it should be fine.
Just out of curiosity, what type of HVAC, or did we end up going with? Are we going with just propane heat and regular AC, or is this
Yes.
heat pumps with propane backup, or?
No, it's a regular, typical furnace, blown air, yeah.
Okay.
And then the hot water heat is it's a tankless system with like a reserve tank.
Yep.
Involved, a recirculation system.
That's pretty
one more
efficient.
question, Mr. Chairman, if I may. So the school's gonna throw in the 750,000,
Yeah,
and that'll be a full parking lot per their request.
yeah, they'll also have access during ski practices and events, not necessarily to the great room, but to an office that's in the back, the restrooms, and that, and then I think they have like up to 4 events during the school year, and then anything outside of the school year, we'll do under a separate type of agreement for the use of it. I mean, we won't charge them, but we'll just have to schedule it and configure it that way.
So with the 750,000 and the additional requirement, what do you think the cost is for that additional requirement?
For the parking lot?
Yeah,
Honestly,
if you're
I don't know, the
guessing.
numbers have changed so much. I believe there's more than enough there for
Okay.
just that, so they're gonna give a lump sum, and so we're gonna incorporate all that, and make sure they get the parking lot. We have, bus loading and unloading zones there, and I think there's 130. For some reason, 130 rings a bell on the number of parking spaces, and there'll be 5 ADA spots in the parking lot.
So that's a significant increase over what's currently there.
Yes.
So is that going to be asphalted then, if you're saying?
No,
park
it'll
lots?
it'll be gravel, but the ADA will be a concrete pad. So,
Any other questions for Michael about the lodge project? Okay, I think you can move on.
so real quick, the bear trap shelters, I'm still in talks with legal about getting the bid documents so that we can advertise that. I'm hoping to do that within the next couple of weeks if we can. Speaking with the engineer, they believe we can still get it constructed this year, as long as we get those out soon. The question there is, do we want to get it built right before the snow flies and let it set all winter, or postpone that bid, or, postpone the construction of it to the following year? But then we have road traffic, road construction, lodge construction, and then we'd have So
Yeah.
I'm all for, let's get it built and get something up there.
I think that makes sense.
So the trailhead kiosk, I still need to do some work on that before we can move forward with that. I did get an ad service from RDG to finalize the design. Legal did review it. They believe it's, justified for that. So I just need to get working on that. We have until 25 to spend the money from the LWCF grant that we got for those kiosks. The bridle trail, I'm currently prepping a list of materials to order for the Wyoming Conservation Corps to utilize in their rehab of the trails. I went up there Saturday, marked dead trees that need to be taken out, crossings that need to be fixed. Took a bunch of photos of them. I still need to finish my trip and do another couple of different loops up there and see what's on those. I'll have to get in contact with the landowners on the sections that are on private to make sure they're okay with our plans. We need to do a couple of creek crossings, improve those. They're getting pretty difficult to get across with keeping your shoes dry. So,
Mr. Chairman, Michael, who's going to oversee that?
so the plan is, I'll oversee it, and anybody that wants to be up there helping out, that would be great. Joe will also help facilitate, because towards the end of their hitch, I will probably be gone on vacation for a couple of the last few days, so.
So do you feel like you have enough work for them, or do we need to come up with more items?
I think we got enough work there,
Okay.
from what I can see.
Just a suggestion, if it comes down where we're looking at having them completed as fast as they do things, we might look at that buck rail fence that we have in the park all over the place, is down most of the places. That could be a place that they could run to fairly quick.
Yeah, I looked at, that was one of my backups, was the fencing around Crimson Dawn, along Crimson Dawn Road, that buck rail fence there, which continually gets wiped out with the plowing and the heavy snow, but that was on one of my lists as an alternate, but there's some other fencing that could probably be improved throughout the park too, so.
Right, going up towards Bear Trap,
Yeah.
off to the left-hand side. And of course, the buck rail fence that will be in the parking lot, that will be, the original plan was to have it right where the trees are right now, but that will change with the construction of the,
Right,
but there's other places, I think if you look, or if Joe has a eye for it, there's quite a lot of it is down. And it would look, it really look nice if we could get that back up.
yeah. Yeah, and that would be a good site. And, we don't have a lot of supply for buck rail, but I'll probably go up by the lodge and flag some of the trees that may be small enough for it within the perimeter of the construction area that they could possibly fall and utilize for that.
That area in back of Martin's Hut, all that lodge pole in there, is that, can we use that? Or is that
Is it,
designated for?
has it already been cut and dropped?
No,
Oh,
it's all
yeah,
new.
I will have to ask Joe. I know he's got certain pole fields, but that's the reason we have those, so,
Right,
we could utilize some of that too.
okay.
So the Bear Trap Festival, they're ready to go. The agreement will be signed at the next commissioners meeting is what I've been told. So we're lined out for that. Mountain staff has kind of been doing some cleanup around there, prepping for it, and trying to get get ahead of the game so that we're not rushing on getting it, but, they're gonna have parking attendants this year. So they'll have the guys on horseback, they'll be staying in the lodge parking lot, with their horses. The National Guard's gonna be part of the event in the south part of the meadow, like they had, last year they had their ops tents and whatnot, so they'll be in the south part of the meadow. I'm hoping it dries out by then because it's still pretty wet, that meadow. It's really, really interesting how much water we have.
Hey, you still got springs that are filling the crevices by the road that is running down water.
Yeah, so yeah, so that should go off pretty well. My staff's lined out to take care of it. We've got road and bridge lined out, emergency services, so the county side's all ready for it.
With the amount of people who'll be up there, Michael, will you have the campfire person that cleans up the campfires and whatnot? Will he be cleaning up the bathrooms?
Yes,
Okay, the one in the maze needs to be swamped out a little bit.
okay,
Toilet papers, I went up there yesterday and I filled the toilet paper and whatnot, so it was just, muddy feet have gone in there and it just needs a little,
yeah. I don't know what his schedule is for that one, but I'll get him in there.
yeah.
Any other questions for Michael on mountain updates? Okay.
All right, so out at the lakes, the Pathfinder campground, the dive-based campground is basically complete. What we're waiting on is, we installed rolling shutters in the large shelter. We actually installed some ceiling panels, fire-rated ceiling panels in there to keep the rafters closed from critters and birds. We installed the rolling shutters, however, 3 of them are smaller dimension than what they ordered. So I think we've got another 2 weeks before we get those installed. But we have actual doors on them with locking handles, so we can keep that closed up until somebody reserves it, which is gonna alleviate a lot of work on my staff, because we'd go in there the night before, clean it for somebody to have a party, and then the owls and the other birds would make a pretty good mess of it. So that's a lot nicer, but yeah, everything's operating pretty well. The new boat dock, we're still on a learning curve on how to deal with the floating dock and the panels. My staff will be out there either tomorrow or early next week, adding the last 3 or 4 10-foot sections to it, which makes it 160 feet, because the cable at the end of it we're about to the end of that from our anchor out on the end. So when the water starts low, we're gonna have to figure out how to take it apart. And so we're looking at options of putting some wheels in. The last time they added sections, a 1-ton pickup was attached to it with a winch, and once it kind of got freed up, it started to drag the truck down the ramp. There's enough force on that dock. So, but it seems like everybody likes it, the new ramp and dock, and it's alleviated some of the traffic. So that's a help. And it seems like the few people I've talked to, the camping out there in the reservation system, they like that in the new setup. I haven't heard too many complaints yet about, the free-for-all. One thing we have right now that I'm waiting to hear on is we don't have any beach camping down there anymore. It's day use only down on the beach, because when you do a campground, it's like you want it all reserved or you want it all first come, first served, not a mix. And so I decided that we would make the beach at dive-based day use only. So you can drive down there and fish and picnic and all that, without any charge, but you can't camp down there anymore. You can do it at the other places and camp right along the beach, but not there. So Saturday night, Bishop Point had a heck of a rainstorm. One of my staff was out there camping, and they had to engage their rear locker on their SUV to get out. And we had some campers that could not get out, and so we've had a road grader in there from Road and Bridge the last 2 days, as well as our skid steer, trying to fix some of those problems. And the main road's fine, but if you go to the north or down into the campgrounds, that's where the problems were, so. We've got it cleaned up now. As my understanding today, a small car drove down through there just fine, so we're back to at least being able to pass it. Construction permits, they're just kind of ongoing. I haven't really had many new ones. I'm sure I'm going to be getting a bunch on the new marina, and once I get kind of their plans, I'll get those presented to you guys to take a look at and see if you guys are agreeable to them as well. They'll be following a master plan on that, so we at least have a guidance document for what they can and cannot do. Right now, they are operating by their rental shed down by the fuel dock. So they still have boat rentals, kayak rentals, paddleboard rentals, that sort of stuff. They're selling fuel. They're getting permanent power down there, hopefully soon. And they, under their alcohol license through the state, I just heard that they're allowed to sell alcohol. They've got like a little tiki bar down there and whatnot, and they're working on what they can do for food without having a water supply for a wash basin. They're kind of limited. So, but they're working with the health department on all that to get that up and running and how they can do that. So that's all I really have for the lakes, unless there's questions.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question on the marina at Alcova. How will that impact any of the park services or?
It actually won't.
Okay.
We don't do anything within their concession area.
Okay.
They operate all of that. So the impact is to the public that's out there. You don't have the little convenience store anymore. You don't have the ice cream sales there. You don't have the restaurant selling hot food there. We've had a couple of cancellations in the full hookups because they like to go over there and eat, and they don't want to cook in their camper. So that's the only real impact I've seen so far as for that. So.
Any other questions for Michael out at the lake? Okay.
The last thing I have is I've been dealing with the parks rules a little bit, and these were basically finalized about the time I hired on with the county, and they were adopted a couple months afterwards. I need to go through them some more. There's a few things that I think need to be updated and changed. I ran through them real quick and made notes this afternoon. We have people that dump their trailer waste into our outhouses. In the sanitation, it says, that you can't do that except in places or receptacles provided. So that's not very clear. And so I want to get it to say, at the RV dump station and not in the outhouse, because that's a pretty good cost to us. There's some talk about campground hydrants shall be used only for gathering of water. The only hydrants we actually have are in the full hookups for hooking your trailer up at those individual sites. We don't have hydrants on the mountain. We don't have them at Pathfinder. So I thought we could work on that a little bit. There's in the reservations, it says you can only have one camping unit, and if there's enough room, you can have one tent. There's some sites at the lake. Black Beach has a few. I think Oakey Beach has a few that we could change to having multiple camping units. We would determine if it's 2 that would fit or 3 that would fit. But I'd like to get the rules changed so that we can set that up for those specific sites. And those sites would, instead of being a base $10 a night, they would, if it had was allowed 3, we'd just make it a base $30 a night, and if you wanted to camp there with 1 trailer, you pay $30. If you want 3 trailers, you pay $30. And kind of, because there's a lot of people that like group camping.
Yeah.
And so, but I think I have to get the rules changed before I can really allow that. And I haven't really read through it a couple of times to figure out if the rules need changed on that. One of the difficulties we have with the reservation system, and I don't know if it needs to be put in the rules, but a lot of people make multiple accounts. They change their last name, or they change the truck, but they keep the same trailer, and then they make a reservation for 10 days. And then under the other account, they make a reservation for 10 more days, and so they stay in the same site, and that's not the intent. The intent is you can stay 10 days, then you have to move to a different campground, not campsite, but campground, for 10 days, and then you could come back. And so, it used to be, the old rules had it to where you couldn't come back to the same campground for 30 days, but that went away in the past revision, and I know Jim was involved probably extensively in the last revision, so, you know, and what else was there? And I'll send this draft to you guys, because there may be some other rules that need to be kind of updated.
Yeah, so I was thinking also in the reservation section that we could add some tweaks, like the bulletin you put out in May about no-shows. Since the reservation clauses are in the actual rules and regs, I think we should update them to be more along the lines of what the state parks has and what your bulletin was, where you have to occupy the site. You can't park your trailer there and then leave for 3 days.
Right.
Not come back. Need to have occupancy on the first day. If you're not there by check-in of the next day, then the reservation could be canceled. Obviously, enforcement of these is going to be problematic and probably based off of complaints until such time as if we ever get campsite hosts that could do that kind of policing. But I think there's a lot of good ideas that the state park camping system has already fleshed out for us that I think we could.
Yeah, and we did help
leverage.
out a little bit in the reservation system. It was, you had to cancel 7 days beforehand to get credit. We've changed that. Our system doesn't allow time of, but it allows 1 day before.
Yeah,
So
which is
we now have
plenty
a
generous.
Yeah, so we now have that set up, so that, a lot of people are figuring that out, and that helps. In the reservation system, in here, in the rules, it talks about that we'll give them credit, you know, as long as they
Yep.
cancel within the time frame, and that's account credit within our system. I'd like clarification from somebody in legal that, is it credit? Is that credit to your account, or is that credit to your banking account that you paid for?
I think the former is what the intent was.
That's what the intent was, but I do have a lot of people that, you know, especially one-timers that are traveling across the country, you know, and that sort of thing, so, you know, and I've used discretion on some of those when they've called, and it's like, yeah, okay, we'll refund your credit card, but the main intent is to provide credit for you to use in the future in our facilities.
Yeah. Yeah. And just as I'm sure you've had some anecdotal evidence that there are cases where the site's booked, but nobody ever shows up and they never cancel, so the site stays empty. I've had some comments about that, and I've seen some sites that are completely empty yet booked on the site.
Well, and so some other people have talked to that intent with me a little bit, and it's like, well, the county's receiving the revenue whether they're there or not, but the revenue's not the major intent in my mind.
It's the service to the public.
Yeah, it's like, we're providing a service, we're providing enjoyment, and that's why personally, I like the reservation system because you know you got a spot and you're not overcrowded.
Yep.
Which to me improves the enjoyment. Some other people don't, so it's a mix of what we have. And I don't know if eventually everything will go to reservations or not, but we're 2 years into the system. There's still a few kinks. We've looked at a different operating system, but those systems require a reservation fee up front and a cancellation fee.
Yeah.
And so, right now, the county is carrying the cost of our software system, which is around $5,000 a year. Where if the county carried the cost of those reservation cancellation fees, which we looked at, is more like $28,000 a year.
Yeah, going to recreation.gov or Reserve America, the
Right.
fees are, there would be more fee than our actual camping fee.
Yeah, so we've tried to keep it low. I will have discussions in the future about increasing our camping fees, just due to the operation costs of maintaining everything, so.
Now, we're still very low compared to a lot of the other recreational areas, so
Yeah.
I think that is definitely a warranted discussion. Any other comments from board members?
When we look at the no-shows, how do you decipher between, with the volatile weather we've had this year, people canceling because of that and people just not showing up? Is there a way to?
Well, the no-show policy is a little hard for
Yeah.
the county to do. For one, we'd have to check on each of those every day. Right now, I have one caretaker running everything at the lake. I have another one coming on tomorrow morning, so that'll help, but we don't get to everything every day, so.
Yeah, without campground hosts on site, enforcement of those type of policies would be
Yeah,
impractical. But it probably wouldn't be a bad thing to have it in the policy, so if a future date, the enforcement becomes viable,
right.
then it's there. Or if we get excessive complaints of abuse, then the parks personnel could investigate that.
And the camp host idea, on the surface, to me, sounds good, but when I start to think about some of the infrastructure and how to work that, it starts to cause some difficulty. For example, the mountain, we have no RV dump station.
Yeah,
We
the
have no water
mountain-
source.
Yes, I think the mountain
But-
would be very problematic. The lake, I think
So Pathfinder, we have an RV dump station, but we don't have a water source. Alcova, we have a coin-operated water source, and we have an RV dump station, but, you're gonna have to, for the camp host, you're gonna have to pick up your trailer once a week, move it around, dump it out, so, there's some of that, and then, just setting up an agreement with, is it gonna be contract, or are they gonna be county staff on the payroll with the overburden and all, so. There's a lot of those logistics that I think would have to be figured out to utilize camp host.
yes.
I like the idea. I've struggled to keep caretakers on. The biggest struggle, I had a really good caretaker, and the public's not nice.
No.
The mountain, we don't have the issues, but at the lakes, the public's not nice when you check for their camping permit, or you tell them to put their dog on a leash, or you tell them to pick up the trash that's blowing around their campsite. They get rude, and sometimes they get belligerent. And I've had conversations with my seasonal caretakers out there this year and said, basically, I said, if you don't want to deal with the public, that's fine. Let them be. Clean the outhouses, clean the empty campsites, and then when they start to complain about the mess and the disarray and the just overwhelming rudeness of this place, maybe the public will decide, we've had enough and we'd like to have the site cleaned up. But I've had multiple calls from my staff about this, and I've seen it, and, you know, people don't care about the rules. The public does not care about the rules. I mean, on the mountain, it's the dogs off leash all the time. I see it all the time. You know, I called somebody out Saturday on it, on the mountain at the bridle trail. It's like, put your dog on leash. You know, I actually got after my daughter and my wife because we had our dog and they dropped a leash, you know, for a little bit. Nobody's around. I said, you need to hold his leash. So, you know, I'm getting after my own family about it. So people need to follow, at least be kind and respectful of others. So, but yeah, so we lost a caretaker because of that. And he was a retired gentleman, and he worked hard, and he spent a season and a half with us, and he was great. And I almost lost the other caretaker at the lake a week or two before he resigned, because of the same thing. You know, I don't know how old he is, but he's a young guy, and he works hard and does his job, and he's polite, and he still gets it, you know. So maybe everybody watching, I don't know, maybe we need to put this on K2 TV so everybody sees it, or a Netflix special. So, but
YouTube it.
but that's the struggle that I deal with almost every day. So, and I've been out there. I actually, when the one gentleman quit, I actually went out and worked a Friday with the other caretaker and learned the job in case they needed me over the weekend. So, I mean, that's where we're at. The Parks Director is going to be out there cleaning campsites and checking permits. So,
So can't the SO be out there and enforce some of that?
they can, but we have a difficult time getting that, you know, through. It's like, well, have they done it multiple times? They're looking for more like, or in my opinion, it seems like they're looking for higher level offenses. You know, breaking the parks rule. You know, they do get after, like the four-wheelers with kids that aren't old enough to drive them. They get after, you know, but they have some issues with our parks rules as well, and I'm gonna be working with them to kind of get their ideas on how to make these more enforceable.
What are their issues?
Well, designated campsites is one. It's like, okay, we have some places that are more
Dispersed camping.
dispersed camping and not as defined. And so when you have first come, first serve at Bishop's and you have 3 trailers in a campsite and some of them are out in the brush, you know, is that okay or is that not okay?
Gotcha.
It happens at Gray Reef as well. They don't always camp in the designated campsites. So that's going to be a work in progress for better signage, better blockage to prevent people from just parking wherever. And that's, the parks is not smooth running, and it probably will be another 3 years before I think I can have it running a whole lot better. So, but that'll require some more staff and whatnot, and funding to get some things done. So, you know, the other big thing is, at the lakes, we have, private landowners that will drop their garbage in our dumpsters, overfill them. We have campers and tenants out there that will throw boxes and barbecuers and all sorts of things, and it's supposed to be bag trash only, so we struggle with that. We've seen people drive out to go camping and throw a mattress away on the way out into the dumpster.
That was nice of them. They
Yeah.
didn't litter.
So, you know, if you wonder why the cost of waste management's so high,
Wow.
like I said, we have campers that dump their camp trailers into our outhouses, fill those up, and then we have to pump them again. And that's each outhouse is probably, for a trip to get it empty, is probably anywhere from the $700 to $900 range. Whether it's my staff doing it with their labor and time and our fuel and the waste ticket, or whether it's contracted out, it's in that price range. And we have, I think, 50 plus outhouses within our, so. And we have people that put propane tanks down in the bottom of the outhouses. You can't get those out.
That's nice.
You know, fish nets, lawn chairs. I can go on about all the problems, you know. Most of the public's good. I mean, they're there to enjoy it. They do what they're supposed to, but we have certain people that just don't care and do what they want, so.
So may I ask a question?
Of course.
When you were talking about the host, the campground host, and you said you weren't sure that that might open, I'm going to use my own word, Pandora's box. I'm wondering, is there another entity or another county that utilizes them that we could maybe look at how they do that?
Yes, there's definitely other organizations that do them, like National Forest sometimes has concessionaires that run the
Right.
campground host outfits. Other organizations manage them themselves, like the National Park Service.
Right, I
They
knew that.
do the contracting and whatnot, so I think we should be able to find some
Like a model.
examples
Yeah.
and models that might give us some ideas to look at. But as you stated, there's some infrastructure needs that we would have to have minimally available before we would be able to attract any. But at the lake, we do have revenue, so that there could be the possibility that if we think this is a direction we want to go, we might have the revenue to be able to offset some of those infrastructure costs over a medium or longer term to try out.
Well, because my first thought when you were talking was, yes, the public does have the me syndrome where it's all about me sometimes. But if there was somebody on site, not policing it, but just knowing there was someone there, would that mitigate any of that?
It might,
I know.
it might.
I think there's ranges of
Yeah.
users. You've got the well-behaved
Right.
majority, then you've got the narrow that if they know there is some sort of parental figure
Yes.
on site, they would be dissuaded from doing really bad things, and then there's those that
That don't care.
don't care.
But if we could stop those medium ones.
Yeah, I don't want our parks to become a nanny state. I mean,
No,
I'm
no.
all about, you know, freedom, but it's like freedom with respect for others is kind of where I fall.
Yeah, just-
So,
But I also look, and I'm thinking of, back home, there's a lot of retirees that come out and just, that's what they do. They spend their summers camping. And I understand what you're saying, having to
Yeah.
move the campers and stuff, but it seems like if we could find a model that works for us, that might be something to explore.
yeah, I'm open to all sorts of ideas. You know, really, I see my position here is let's improve what we have, you know. Not to the point that it's, you know, a commercial endeavor campground like a KOA where we have hundreds of sites, you know. I mean, we could, you know, Bear Trap, if we wanted to do it as revenue, we could double the number of sites in there, but that's not what I see people wanting. You know, I think there's adequate number of sites there for people to enjoy it and not be right on top of each other, so.
So I had one other question. In the state document that you gave us, when I was reading it, they can only camp for 14 days within a 30-day period, a rolling 30-day period. Is that, am I misreading that?
No, I believe that's correct for the state.
For the state.
All of these time periods would be something that we would want to review to see if this is something that would make sense for our particular environment or not.
Well, right now, I don't think we have a problem, but I think potentially we could have some issues. Drive by Bozeman and see some pretty campsites they got behind the 19th Street.
Yeah, well, Michael alluded to some of that, the issues that we
Yeah.
would want to try to deal with the people trying to game the reservation
Yes.
system and being able to book
Yeah.
a site for a month.
Yeah. Is that
So,
across the board at both the mountain and the lake, or is that primary the lake?
It's both.
Is it both?
It's both, and our system allows us to flag accounts, so, you know, if we don't actually talk to the people about it, but we're aware of it, we flag it, and, you know, if it happens again, then it's like, we have a note that this happened before, so, you know, at some point, get enough flags, and I don't have a system, in place of like 2 flags, 3 flags. It probably, we can block them out of making reservations in our system. So,
Yeah, I think there's going to be some education and growth. This is only our second year of the reservation system, so we're now having more information available on behavior and abusers. And we'll have to revise our approaches based off of human behavior and see what works and what doesn't.
yeah, so. That's pretty much all I have, so I'll refine my comments on the parks rules and get those out to you guys, and maybe next month we can talk about everybody's ideas on what might need to be changed. Maybe I'm overthinking it and we need to leave them like they are. These were adopted in May of 2021, so they're 2 years old. Maybe Jim has an idea on how often they get revised.
The last one before that was 2012,
Okay,
so.
so that was almost a decade.
But it
Yeah.
was pulling teeth just to get that through, so I think periodically focusing on particular sections, like camping rules or something else, as opposed to trying to do a entire review, makes sense. Any other
And
board
I also,
comments?
also when we look at those changes, if need be, just, involve the SO.
Yeah,
And we had on this last go-around, and I think it's just a work in progress.
Yep.
Something that works great, something that doesn't, let's change it.
Exactly.
Yep.
We don't want to treat this as a set in stone type of,
It's a living document.
yes.
well, and here's the other thing, I know we can't reduce them a lot, but I know a lot of people don't want to read through 20 pages of parks rules to figure out what they can and cannot do.
I think
So-
that is something, if we can get, we need a certain level of verbiage for enforcement from the legal perspective. But I think if we could summarize the generalities, and then that's something we can post at campgrounds and at kiosks. Like if you go up to the National Forest sites in the Bighorns, at their kiosk, they have a little rule of, or a summary of campground etiquette and rules and behavior, and it's just one page.
Yeah.
And very straightforward. They put them up in the bathrooms and on the kiosks, so a summarization of those, like I have not seen any signs of dogs must be on a leash, like at Rotary or
Right.
the trails up there. So that's definitely something with the kiosk projects we can work towards, and
And on that note, a little bit about the rules and how big it is. IT is working on a chatbot system to where it's like on the website where you get the little thing, what's your question, and you type it in, and it takes you to the document or the section of the document. And so that's something we can train. It kind of learns on itself a little bit because it searches all the documents affiliated with the website. So I think with that, we could do that. And then I'm thinking about trying to get the rules in a PDF with bookmarks, so you can, click on camping and it jumps you right to that
you
page.
could definitely clean it
section.
up and give it a
To
little.
make it easier for the public to
More
access it.
user-friendly.
Yeah.
It's, the current draft seems to be totally geared towards legal. That's it.
Mr. Chairman, one thing, in the state document here, we also have highlighted that sites must be occupied nightly. Is that a problem at the county level? Or potential?
Yeah, it is in the first come, first serve, especially before the holidays, but that goes back to enforcement. There's a couple of different mindsets that I've heard recently, is like, well, if they paid for the site, doesn't matter. It's like, how do I say it's abandoned property when they have a permit for it, and then do you put a timestamp on the outside of the trailer when you visited, and then the next time you come, and they could say, well, I was there, I didn't get there till 11:30 last night, and I ran back into work at 6 this morning. You know, so enforcement of it's the difficult part of the, you know, no-show or, empty trailer and those things, so. You know, and I dealt with some first come, first serve where guy set his tent up, went into town for work or whatever. Somebody picked his tent up, threw it in the draw, parked your camp trailer there. So, but it's like, you know, there was also a windstorm the night before, so it's like, who's telling me what, you know? Who am I gonna let have the site? And so that, you know, there's that going on too.
Do you feel like you're herding cats?
I have a question.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There at the lake, is there any place for day campers? If an individual brings out a camper and just parks it during the day, or do all of those are rental sites?
Well, you
That doesn't spend the night,
if you've got a camper, we're gonna be looking for a camping permit.
okay?
Now,
At
if
the
you're in a
developed
pickup
campsites.
and you wanna park down in one of the campgrounds at the beach and go fishing, yeah, that's, you know, if you're parked in a reserve site and somebody's coming in with their reservation, then that's the issue. But if you're not taking up, but if you're at a picnic table at Cottonwood and you're just fishing for the day, you know, we're not looking for a permit there. If there's a tent
Well,
up or a camper up.
There used to be just open camping at Alcova I'm talking years ago where you just came in and an individual didn't necessarily stay all day. But now you want overnight camping. You bring in a camper, an individual has a family coming in and boating and et cetera, and they just want a safe place to be for eating and et cetera, now that we don't have a restaurant. And so that is not what we're looking at, having a day camper there. They should have their own site. Only a pickup is what you're asking.
Yeah, so if you're taking up a campsite, we're expecting that you're probably paying for it, but,
If you're thinking more like this is more at Pathfinder now, where there's those total dispersed camping spots that are not established, there's not picnic tables, there's not fire rings. That's more along the BLM. If it's an established site, you can park your camper for whatever length of time, no charge. But at our established and developed campgrounds, you're just
There
using.
is no unestablished campground at Alcova is what I'm hearing then.
so there is, it's hard to get to, it's clear, it's between Black Beach and Cottonwood Beach, but technically, if you're within our management area and you're camping, you need to pay a fee. So like campers down on the shoreline at Pathfinder, whether it's out at Wolf Point, we're checking for permits.
And that's no problem.
Yeah.
I understand that, to pay a fee, but you're saying that we have to have an individual spend overnight. This is their reserve spot, and this is where they're going to.
Yeah, so if you're in the reservation system in those sites, you need to have a permit for use of that site.
Correct. I understand.
However,
that.
if you're out for the day, you hauled your camper out so you guys can sit inside for lunch, and you're in a site, you maybe get asked for to pay a permit fee in the
Well,
first
they
come,
should
first
be.
serve,
They should be.
if the caretaker shows up. Now, the caretaker, like I said, our caretaker doesn't get to make the rounds every day, so we miss a whole lot. But, you know, we're looking for people to follow
And
the rules.
an individual goes to what site in order to book everything? Is that just on the county site?
Yeah, you can go to Natrona County -wy.gov, I think is what it is.
If you Google Natrona County Parks Reservations,
Yeah,
it's the
And it-
first or second hit.
and it's on the homepage. You can scroll right down and camping reservations, so
You
yeah.
can reserve the campgrounds or the shelters or everything.
Thank you.
Any other board comments or questions on rules and regs?
I've just got a question that present to Rob. The Brittle Trail just had a big construction project up there with Pathway, and Rob's involved with it, so maybe he can explain what took place.
Sure. Thanks. And yes, I teach construction in the high school and a little bit at college, and one of the projects we took on was a bridge reconstruction at the Braille Trail. So in the fall last year, we went in and put in all the footings, and we partnered with our engineering and welding groups to design, and then we put it in the other day, and it's a good-looking bridge, too. It looks very similar to some of the stuff that goes across the river here, but I think there's a desire to do some more of those, so. I talked to a couple of the instructors, too, about,
Just a picture of the bridge.
yeah.
Constructed.
Yeah. We talked to a few of the people about doing some more county, like parks and things like that. So with some of the advanced tools they have at Pathways, we can do everything from signage to structural welding and things like that. So it was a good project, and I think we'll continue to do those.
Excellent, thank you.
It is a nice bridge. If you haven't been up there, do it. I'm a member of the Castro Mountain Lions Club, and so the beams that are on the footway, you're not going to go through those. They are literally 4 to 5 inches thick. We have got a lot of work to get that egress and egress on both sides of those, but the steel structure on it, phenomenal. Phenomenal welding. Good project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board comments or questions? Okay, anything in general? Okay, doesn't look like we have any public presence, so I hope somebody's watching on YouTube and is getting some information. Thank you again, Michael, for your hard work and providing us with all these updates and guidance. And thank you, board members. And if that's out, then we'll